Do you need to get started with DbVisualizer quickly? In this video, I'll show you how to set it up and show you many of its features, including a really handy feature that can save a lot of time. Start by going to the DbVisualizer website at dbviz.com. Click the big Download for Free button. There's a banner here that seems to auto-detect your operating system and recommend a version to you, so you can click this button here to download it. Or you can scroll down and see what other versions are available. DbVisualizer is available on Windows, Linux and Mac. Choose a location to save the file and click Save. The installer will start downloading. After a moment it has completed, so I'll go to where I saved it and run it. It will load for a few seconds and the setup wizard is shown. Click Next. The installation is pretty straightforward. You can change some options such as the installation location and whether you want a desktop icon, but otherwise you can just click Next, Next, Next until the end. The installation will then begin. It took about 10 seconds for me on a mid-range Windows laptop. Once it's done, you'll see this screen. If you want to run it right away, leave this box checked and click Finish. Once you open DbVisualizer, you'll see a splash screen for a moment, then a license agreement. Read it and click Accept. You'll see this welcome screen where you can choose which plan you want to use. The first option is Pro, where you can enter a license key and get access to all features. This can be helpful if you or your employer has already purchased it. The second option is using the free version forever, where you can access the basic features. The third option is a free trial of the Pro edition. For this video, I'll choose the free trial edition so I can demonstrate more of the features to you, and I'll mention as we go which features are in the Pro plan. After I click this button, I see this screen that asks me to enter my email address. I'll enter my email and click Evaluate. After a moment, the evaluation is enabled. On the next screen, I'm prompted to choose my theme. You can match your operating system theme, choose a light theme or choose a dark theme. I'll leave it as Match OS Settings and click Next. On this screen, I can enter a master password to access DbVisualizer. This is optional and I'll skip it for now. You can choose to help the DbVisualizer team improve by sharing anonymous usage statistics, which I'd like to do. After a moment, DbVisualizer is opened. You'll see the main screen for DbVisualizer. The main panel here prompts you to create a connection, which I think is handy because it's usually the first thing you do when you open a new SQL editor. You can create a connection in a few ways, such as going to the database menu and then Create Database Connection, or clicking the plus icon on the left in this panel here, or clicking the Create a Connection button here. A panel will appear on the left, showing a list of database vendors that are available. There's quite a comprehensive list. To start, I'll create a connection to a MySQL database, so I'll scroll down and double-click MySQL 8. There are a couple of other MySQL options, but MySQL 8 is the one I need as I'm using version 8 of MySQL. A new tab appears with all of the connection details required. A lot of the details are already populated, such as the server and port. The name has defaulted to MySQL 8, and this will be shown on the left panel. You can change this if you want, but I'll leave it as it is. I'll need to fill out the authentication section. Enter the username and password for the database. There are a lot of other settings that can be changed, such as auto-commit or setting a default database. I'll leave them as they are and click Ping Server. A message appears saying that the server is accessible. This is handy as it tells me I've entered the right server information, but the username and password are checked separately. Next, click Connect. In the connection message area at the bottom, it should show some information about the database server like this if the connection is successful. If it's not, for example if you enter the wrong password, it will show an error message just like you've seen in other editors. I've now connected to the database. A few things have changed. All of the fields on this screen are grayed out, so they can't be edited for a connection. We can still edit connections later and I'll show you how to do that. You can click the Disconnect button here if you want to disconnect from the server. We also see on the left panel that we have a new entry here called MySQL 8, which is the name of the connection we created. There's a small green tick next to the connection to indicate we are connected to it. Let's start writing some SQL. DbVisualizer uses a tab concept for query editors, like many SQL editors. In DbVisualizer, they are called SQL commanders. To open a new tab or SQL Commander, you can click on the plus icon here on the far left. You can also click the arrow next to the plus button and select New SQL Commander or press Ctrl and T. A new tab will be opened. Under the tab name is a row of icons which seem pretty familiar and include things like execute the script and save. Now before I write some queries, I'd like to know what tables exist on my database. To do this, I can expand the database's entry on the left. I imagine that this list would look different for each vendor, as the concept of a database and a schema is different, but it's easy to see and expand. In this list, I can see the built-in MySQL schemas like Information Schema and SYS. I can also see the Sakilla database I have loaded. Expand the Sakilla entry, then the tables entry, and I can see all of the tables within the database. Let's query some tables within the Sakilla database. In the Query tab, I can start writing a select query. Let's say I want to select from the actor table within the Sakilla database. I can write a select statement here. If I want to run it, I can press Ctrl and Enter, or click this first button here, which is Execute the Script. I do this, but I get an error because I haven't specified the database. We can do that in two ways. I could enter the database name of Sakilla before the table name, or I can select the database from the drop-down here. Now, when I run the query, I see the results here. The results are clear and easy to read. There are a range of icons on the toolbar on this results panel. You can refresh the results, export them, or open them in a spreadsheet. If you click on a row, you'll see some of the other icons enabled, such as adding a new row, duplicate rows, edit the row in a new window, and more. So DbVisualizer allows you to edit data right in the results panel. I've seen this in other editors, but in DbVisualizer it seems pretty easy to do. There are many places in DbVisualizer that you can hover over and get more information. One of those is the column headings in the result panel. If you hover over a heading, you can see the data type and whether it can be null or not. If you click on the Log tab, you can see a range of statistics about the query that was executed, such as the time taken, number of rows, what happened, and the query that was executed. This would be handy for investigating performance issues. If you want a quick reference guide for many common SQL statements and features, and stop forgetting the syntax for SQL, you'll love the SQL cheat sheets I created. Get your copy at the link in the description. Let's query another table. We'll select some columns from the city table. This time we'll specify the table name and give it an alias, so we can see the autocomplete feature. Once the table has an alias, we can add the column to the select clause by typing C then a dot. The autocomplete may appear now or as we start typing. You can trigger it by pressing Ctrl space. Here is the autocomplete window. You'll see a list of columns in this table, along with their data type and an indicator for the primary key. You can use the up and down arrows to select a column. There's this handy option here for all columns. If you leave this selected and press Enter, then the select clause is populated with all of the columns, qualified by the table alias. Let's run the query. First, we'll close the previous result tabs. Then we click the first Execute button again. We will see two result tabs appear, one for the actor query and one for the city query. This is because the first button will execute all queries in a script. This is handy if we want to see many queries in our result, and each result is shown in a separate tab. We can click the Log tab and see all of the queries included. If we want to run a single query, we can click this second button, which is to execute the statement at the cursor position. We do this and the two earlier tabs are removed, and we see the results of a single query on the city table. The Log tab shows our single query here. The previous queries are cleared from the log, but if you want to keep them here, you can click this button to disable clearing the log for each query. When we ran our query on the city table earlier, the results of the earlier queries were removed. If we want to keep the results, we can pin the tab by right-clicking on the tab and selecting Pin Tab. A small icon appears on the tab to show it is pinned. Now, if we run another query, this Pin tab is kept and the results are shown in a new tab. We saw earlier that a list of tables in our database is shown on the left panel. We can double-click on a table in the list and we see this window. There are two options to select: open a new tab for the object details, or expand the object. You'll get this every time you double-click on the object, but you can check this box here to save your choice. For now, I'll select Open Object. A new tab is shown with a lot of information about the table, which is actor in this example. We have some basic info about the table, a tab for columns here, a tab with data in this table, and a range of other tabs. You can move tabs around the screen by clicking the header of a tab and dragging it. You can drag it to a different position in the list of tabs. You can even drag the tab outside of the list of tabs, like this, and it becomes a floating window. This can be handy if you have other windows to work with. If you want the tab back in the list in the main window, you can drag it back in. The names of the tabs are set to Untitled by default. You can rename this if you like. Right-click on the tab and select Rename Tab. I'll give this a name of Test Queries. Press Enter and the name is saved. To save a file, you can click on the Save button here or go to File, then Save. Choose a location, enter a name for the file, and click Save. Normally, the tab name is updated to match the file name. If you have entered a tab name like we have, it's easy to reset to the default. Right-click on the tab name and select Rename Tab. Then, without making any changes, press Enter. The tab name is changed to the file name you have saved. When you first opened DbVisualizer, you chose a theme of either light, dark, or to match the operating system. You can change this easily by going to Tools, then Tool Properties. The Options window will appear. In this window, you'll be able to change a lot of options for DbVisualizer. For now, we'll just change the theme. Go to General, then Appearance. At the top we have the theme. I selected Match to the operating system when I first opened DbVisualizer, so the automatic box here was checked. You can unselect that if it is checked and choose a new theme. I'll choose Dark, then click Apply. The theme is changed automatically. Click OK and you're returned to DbVisualizer. If you want to change it back, repeat the steps and choose the other theme. I'll change it back to light for now. If you want to export data, you can export a single table by right-clicking on a single table and selecting Export Table. There are a range of formats and options to choose from, so choose what you want and click Export. If you want to export the entire database or multiple tables, you can right-click on the database object and select Export Database. You can select from different types of objects and formats. Make your selections and then export. To import data into your database, right-click on the Tables entry and select Import Table Data. You can start by clicking the folder icon to browse for and select a file to import. You can then follow the steps and import the file. DbVisualizer has a built-in way to view table relationships. It's like a way to generate an ERD of your database. To do this, right-click on the Tables entry and select Open in Tab. You'll see a list of tables in the database, along with some properties of each table. We can see the number of rows in each table here as well, which is handy. If you click on the References tab, all of the tables will be added to a diagram and organised so they don't overlap. There's a lot you can do on this screen. You can zoom in and out by clicking these buttons here. You can click on one of the tables and the relationships to other tables are highlighted in red or green. This is a handy way to see how tables are related. You can also export what you see to a file. Click the Export button here, select a file format such as PNG and follow the steps. Many SQL editors allow you to see an execution plan for a query, and DbVisualizer is no different. To show an execution plan for a query, find the query you want to explain. By default, the Explain Plan feature will be run for all statements in the script, so to run it for just one statement, we need to highlight it. Then click this Execution Plan button here. An execution plan is shown at the bottom of the screen. It's shown in a visual format, and the more complex the query is, the more boxes you'll see on the tab. You can hover over the boxes to see more information. You can do a lot on this tab, including exporting the plan to a file. This is handy if you want to save a copy of it or send it to someone. On the panel on the left, there's a tab called Scripts. Within the Scripts entry, there are bookmarks and monitors. The bookmarks section allows you to easily access SQL files that you use often. You can create a new file by right-clicking on Bookmarks and select Create File. Enter a name and press Enter, and the file is saved. The file is saved to a location on your computer, which you can see in the Properties panel at the bottom. Now you can view and edit the file by right-clicking on it and selecting Open in SQL Commander. It looks just like other SQL Commander tabs that we've seen before. You can select a connection, a database, and enter your SQL code. When you save the file, it's saved in the Bookmarks section. This is a handy feature to quickly access commonly used SQL files. DbVisualizer has a way to access objects and files even easier, and it's called Favorites. You can see the Favorites tab here. The message here tells us we can drag an object from the Databases or Scripts tab here and a favorite is created. Let's do that. Let's say that I often work with the film table and I want to have easy access to that. Drag it to the Favorites tab header here and release, and a favorite is created. We can see it in the list here. We can also see it in the toolbar here, which is also our list of favorites. This means that even if we don't have this Favorites panel open, if we're looking at Scripts or Database or the side panel is collapsed, we can still access our favorites by clicking on this button. When I click this table, the details are shown in a new tab like we saw earlier. This is a handy feature to give you quick access to objects. We can do the same with scripts. Click on the Scripts tab and drag one of the scripts to the Favorites tab. Our script is now in the list of favorites, making it easy for us to access. DbVisualizer includes a code formatter, making it easy to improve how your SQL scripts look. To format your script, right-click anywhere in the script and select Format SQL. You can select either Format Current, which will format the current statement, or Format Buffer, which will format the whole script. I'll select Format Buffer. The file is formatted. If you don't like the formatting, you can undo it by pressing Ctrl-Z. If you don't like how the formatter handles something or want to change something to adhere to your team's standards, you can adjust this in the options. Go to Tools, then Tool Properties. Scroll down the bottom in the sidebar, and under SQL Commander, select SQL Formatting. You can see a lot of options here to change the formatting, which is good to see as you can really tweak it to what you want. You can also see a preview of some code to see what it may look like. DbVisualizer is a pretty easy to use tool and has some great features to help you improve your SQL code. You'll want to watch this video next where I share 20 years of advice for working with SQL and databases. Thanks for watching.